Hi, I'm Stuart from HiFi PiG. We're here at the Bristol HiFi Show 2023. We're here with Toby Ridley, who is the lead R&D engineer for PMC, and we're going to be talking about what has made the 25i loudspeaker from PMC so successful over the last couple of years.
The 25i series is a range of globally award-winning loudspeakers that we developed. It comes in 3 floor standing models and 2 bookshelf models, as well as a centre channel. So just before we start the development project for the 25i series, we just released the flagship Fenestra speaker. And during the development of that, we learned a lot about vibration control and the importance of dealing with that mechanical vibrations within the cabinet. So we took what we learned from the Fenestra development and we really wanted to see how could we apply this to the 25i project in a meaningful way, but without completely redesigning the product. So the way we came up with doing this was to create an anti-vibration plinth bar mount. And this is a series of rubber discs that allow the plinth bar to completely float underneath the speaker, so there's no rigid connection between the speaker and the plinth. And this means that there's a massive reduction in the amplitude of vibrations that would normally get passed from the drive unit down the cabinet into the spike and then reflect back up into the speaker. With the anti-vibration plinth mounts, instead they go down the speaker and get absorbed at that point. They don't get to pass back up the speaker and get re-radiated, which would otherwise muddy the sound. So this reduction in the amplitude of the vibrations that we were able to achieve is really clearly audible. It's evident in a much more clear and open mid-range presentation. Everything sounds a lot more lifelike and a lot more free from, it's almost a smearing that you might notice otherwise. As with all PMC products, the 25i series features advanced transmission line base loading that we developed over the entire lifespan of our company. It gives us the most deep, defined, clean, clear, low distortion bass and allows us to get that from a much smaller cabinet than you might otherwise think. So what we've developed for the Fenestra and what we've then borrowed from that for the 25i series is the use of a 19mm dome tweeter, which is way narrower than what you'd normally see. And this gives it incredibly wide high-frequency dispersion. I mean, it's really quite astonishingly wide, and it's part of the reason why these speakers have such a massive holographic soundstage. But normally, if you did that, you'd have the caveat of having almost no low-frequency extensions. You'd have to cross over really high frequency to get good integration between the bass driver and the tweeter. So what we did instead is have a very large roll surround and give the tweeter really high linear excursion. This lets us have the benefits of that super wide dispersion, but we've actually been able to lower the crossover frequency in these speakers compared to the existing 25 series to 1700 Hz, which is really quite low for a two-way product. But that's absolutely let us optimize the dispersion characteristics between the woofer and the tweeter. They're really well matched at the crossover point. It gives us a massively even and wide dispersion across the entire audio bandwidth. The reason it's so important to have such wide dispersion, such even dispersion, which is why we've really focused on that in these speakers, is that we hear sounds from not just the direct sound radiated from a speaker, we also hear reflected sounds from all around the room. And if those early reflections come back at our ears with a really different frequency response, which would result from having an uneven off-axis response, our brains interpret that as being not natural and slightly almost disconcerting at times, where the soundstage really does collapse in. Your brain just doesn't interpret it as being in a wide open space that the recording might be trying to portray. Instead, it just feels like the soundstage collapses into the size of the speakers and the position of the speakers, and you don't really get any holographic imaging. So this was actually introduced on the original 25 series and it's carried over to the 25i series. And it's the Laminar vent that we now utilise at the end of the transmission line. Now what this does is massively smooth the airflow coming out of the cabinet, prevents turbulence forming as the air gets forced in and out of the cabinet, and ensures that we keep a really smooth laminar flow. A laminar flow of air out of the cabinet is really important for a few reasons. First, the turbulence that otherwise would be formed causes audible noise, which we refer to as chuffing. But secondly, and more importantly, turbulent flow is really inefficient at transferring energy from the air inside the cabinet to the air outside as sound. So the more turbulence you have, the less actual sound you get for the given amount of energy inside the cabinet. So by utilising the Laminar vent and keeping the airflow really nice and laminar, we actually maximise the efficiency of energy transfer from the cabinet to the outside world. This gives us the most bass output that we can possibly get from the cabinet and keeps it completely noise-free. So by building upon the 25 series, which was already so highly regarded, and making the changes that we talked about here, we've managed to create a product line that we're incredibly proud of, It's a globally award-winning product line, and it really is one of the peaks of what we can currently produce at PMC.